What's up, everyone? So this video is showing how to do Viridian Forest manip in Pokemon Red glitchless speedrun. This manip works as an extension of the 7A press Nidoran manip, which is the most difficult manip, but it's the fastest, and it gives a perfect Nidoran. So you'll see pretty much all of the top runners using this 7A press Nido manip, which is linked in the video description. And so to do this manip, you first execute the Nidoran manip, and normally that manip ends when you've caught the Nidoran, but you need to extend it by playing frame perfectly until you fight the Weedle guy in the forest. So the way you do that is you need to be holding A or B for all of the normal text boxes during the Nidoran catch. The Pokedex entry text boxes do not count, but every other text box you have to be holding B for every single character that comes up, and then you need to hit the frame window for clearing all of those text boxes, which is a similar frame window to the one you need to hit for the Wild Nidoran appeared text box in order to get the catch to work. That's about 3 or 4 frames for each of those text boxes, so this does take some practice, and I don't recommend it if you don't have a time that's like around 150, 151, because it's a lot of time to practice this to get good enough that you'll be seeing results. And even if you do this perfectly, you're only saving about 5 seconds. Hopefully a bit more in the future. Like, I think we can get this up to 6 seconds if we use bots to find perfect manips. But for now, we've got some manual manips that, if you're good with the text boxes, you should be using to save 4 to 5 seconds. So the main challenge of Forest manip and getting it to work, and the reason it hasn't happened until now, despite manip coming out last year, is there is one input that cannot be done frame perfectly, and that is the input right after you catch the Nidoran and it goes in the Pokedex, all those text boxes I just mentioned. It's for naming the Nidoran. Now, if you were to not name the Nidoran, you could do that frame perfectly by by just pressing B at the yes/no text box, but not naming Nidoran loses 45 seconds. So we have to name it, and you cannot clear the nicknaming screen with start frame perfectly after you've given a name. Actually, the part you can't do frame perfectly is giving the name. It doesn't really matter. There are 2 inputs, and the only thing that matters is just the end input. So that can't be done frame perfectly, so we've had to map out some clusters based on which frame you nickname the Nidoran. So I've mapped out about 8 clusters, 8 frames. So that's one cluster of 8 frames. And the way you tell which frame you hit is you observe the NPC in Viridian, and the guy that you have to pass on the way to the save tile for the Nidoran manip. There's so many different movements that he can do that most of the time you'll know which frame you hit based on which way he moves or faces. And if you see a pattern you don't recognize, just don't do the manip and you've lost no time. So at the top of the screen here, I've listed the 8 frames. These are like the 8 earliest frames, so if you're really bad at nicknaming the Nidoran, then you might hit a later frame and then you won't recognize it. But with practice, you should be able to hit one of these 8 every time. And you see at the bottom of the screen a guide on what each of the columns means. Now, before I show the manips, I do need to explain like what these terms mean. So a lowercase d, that means that the NPC, and in this case it's the Viridian NPC, is facing down. It doesn't mean he's moved down, he's just facing down. And then, like for here, he's facing up because it's a lowercase u. And then the arrow pointing to uppercase up means that he moves up. Now if this were a lowercase, like lowercase L, that would mean he starts facing up and then he faces left. So just lowercase is faces, uppercase is actual movement. And then here, for the 3rd to 5th NPCs, I've just separated them by a comma because I don't want to have this going out too far. And those NPCs rarely matter. So just like in this case, NPC 3 moves down, NPC 4 moves left, NPC 5 moves left. In this case, I'm just referring to NPC 3 because I don't have commas to separate them. So she starts facing down and then she moves down. And then here, just add these commas because this is a manip where all 3 NPCs are facing down. So let's just get to it. On the bottom right, I'll bring up emulator and show the manips that I've done. I've already recorded the input, so I'll just play one after another and just kind of go through the path like here as I do it. So here is path number 1. And I'll try to include timestamps in the description as well. Hopefully I don't forget everything I need to put in the description. Remind me in the comments if I've forgotten anything. Yeah, here's the 7A press Nido manip. Not too hard to execute with practice, so I do recommend learning that. If you have like a 154 or better. And now I've been holding A or B during the text boxes so far, and I've got to keep holding it here. There's some technique involved in that, and I'll link something in the description that explains that a bit more, because that is the trickiest part, is getting those text boxes. Okay, so now we see that the NPC is just facing down the entire time, and then we saw the second NPC moved left. Again, we're on path number 1 right here. And then that's down, and then left. Oops, this should be lowercase l. And left, because those NPCs can't move, they can only face one of the 4 directions. So you see I'm cutting through grass that we normally walk around. That's one of the benefits of this manip, is you don't have to worry about getting random encounters most of the time on those faster paths. So you save about 3 seconds in movement, in addition to the save from not getting encounters. So I did a little bit of movement right there at the end, and that's what this description is for. I'm turning 1 tile early on that trip down right before this trainer, who we call Wheel Guy. If you do not turn there, if you don't zigzag like that, and you just go all the way down before turning, then you're going to get an encounter right before this guy. So now path number 2. All of these have the exact same start with the Nidoran manip. So I will just speed up this part for paths 3 to 8, because you don't need to see it again. And I'll explain the text boxes a bit more here, but like I said, you should watch another video to figure that out and just do practice. Lots of practice with these text boxes. So like here, I'm holding A, and then I clear this text box with B, and I continue holding A, then B, 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 and then I need to let go of A in time to buffer during the Nidoran cry. And then I do B, and then I hold B, and then I clear the last 2 boxes with A. Okay, so here, it's facing up, and then moves up, and then you saw that NPC moved right. So now this is one of 2 manips that has an A press. You're probably familiar with the A presses if you're doing this manip, because there's 7 of them in the Nidoran manip. So this tile here, you can look it up on Poke World, the big map. It's that one right there. It's right on the turn. Pressing A on that tile prevents you from getting an encounter in this stretch. I'll try to link Pokeworld in the description. It's a very useful site for looking up movement paths, item balls, hidden items. Started using it just a few weeks ago. Didn't really need to use it before this manip stuff happened, but it's really useful for manip. Okay, so that's path number 2. And now path number 3, and I'll just speed this up. And catch the Nidoran again. And now he's going to start facing up. Now he's going to move left, and then this NPC is going to move left. So like when you've seen that pattern at that point, you can look at the route over here and then just follow those instructions. Here you've got to recognize it right away, so you can do this. Enter the grass 1 tile early. And then the rest of the manip is just normal, no A press, no extra turns. Now when I say normal here, I should clarify, normal is just the term I've been using in routing this to refer to the simplest path. The simplest path is what you're seeing me do every time, minus these extra instructions like this. It's basically just you're turning as late as possible everywhere. So that's manip number 3. Here's manip number 4. And we'll just speed through all of this again. And each of these is a different nickname frame. It's probably too subtle to notice without really studying it. But yeah, see, he's facing right, moves left, this guy moves left. Usually you don't need to observe more than that, although there are some very rare outcomes where you'll see like the first 2 NPCs doing something that's on your chart that's actually different RNG. So yeah, this one is the normal route. So what I'm doing here is, anytime I have normal listed, you just do this. I'm putting this note here just in case this fails somehow. I mean, RNG manip has all sorts of unexplained failures. So I would, what I'm doing in this video should work in theory, but it hasn't been tested enough in runs to guarantee it's going to work as often as I say. So if it starts failing this particular manip, you can just do the normal movement and you shouldn't get encounters. Shouldn't. This is as good of a backup as I can give. So that's manip number 4. And here's number 5. Speed up. And I've got these times listed. That's just in reference to how quickly you did the nickname, roughly. I didn't figure out exactly which frame each one is, but I think 3 or 4 might be the earliest, and 7 or 8 is the latest. Okay, so the NPC one facing down, that's the trickiest one. And you see, this is why I've included instructions for NPC 3 to 5 for path number 1 and path number 5. Because the starting NPC does the same thing, and the second NPC, the old man, does the same thing as well. So you need to be paying attention to the NPCs in the gatehouse and the start of the forest to know which movement to do. For this one, I again pressed A on that that turn tile, same movement as manip number 2. So we have 3 manips left, still a few interesting things to explain, though you've probably got the basic idea by now. If you have any questions, I can answer them in the comment section, or you can come to my stream or Discord, or the Pokemon Speedruns Discord. A lot of knowledge that we've acquired about manipulation so far, and it can be easy to get lost in trying to understand it all. Okay, so that's the one where the old man moves right twice, and then we're just going to do normal movement. So something very important that this is not so much important to executing the manip. You don't need to know this in order to execute the manips perfectly, but you will be very frustrated if you don't recognize that these manips can fail to RNG. So that is a phenomenon we call in-game timer 0, IGT 0 for short. It's based off of timer 0, the RNG mechanic in Generation 5. So what that means is the game tracks your time in hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. You'll see it when you beat the game. It pops up in the Hall of Fame, and you see it whenever you save as well. Here's manip number 7. So you'll get different RNG on certain frames. The seconds, minutes, and hours matter much less. But for example, frame 37 is almost always going to fail, and the technical explanation is too much for this video, but just know that there are certain frames that always fail if you save on them and then try to do the manip. And then there are some frames that will fail on certain manips, like frame 4, frame 45, frame 34 are really bad for all of these manips trying to get no encounters in the forest. So in the current state with the manips that I've made manually, you're about 73% to successfully make it from the Nido Bush to Weedle Guy without getting an encounter. Normally, you would take some extra steps, about 3 seconds worth, and then your chance would be 60%. So you add up one more minute to go, should be able to finish the explanation. You add up the decreased encounter chance, which is it's about 10%, 13%, so that's roughly 1.4 seconds worth. You add that to the 2.8 seconds, this is exactly how much time you save in movement. And it's a 4.2 second save. So even with the chance of getting screwed over by IGT 0, you're saving quite a bit of time if you can execute this, and you're not losing time if you fail to execute it, because you just recognize, based on the first NPC, that you didn't get it, and then you just go around the grass and you don't increase your encounter chance. So this is an example of an IGT. I actually forgot to change the time here, but this can serve as an illustration. So this is frame 59 on path number 8. Frame 59 works on all of the others, but on this one it gives this is a level 3 Weedle in this patch up. So path number 8 is 42 out of 57 to work, so 73.7%. There are 60 frames, but I'm only counting 57 because 3 but the 60 frames just fail to encounter or catch the Nidoran, in which case you obviously can't do Forest Manip. Now there are a few paths where you can recognize that you didn't get, you either failed the Manip or you got an IGT 0 frame and then adjust accordingly. So you can either just walk around the bushes, don't attempt the Manip, and then you just have the natural encounter chance. Or you can try to route out a Manip for that specific failure, and I do plan to do that if somebody else doesn't do it first, or somebody doesn't make a bot for it. It's very minor, but in the long run we'll be happy to have improved this from what it is right now. So like this encounter, this failure, we'll probably not get this once we've improved this Manip, but for now just be aware that this can happen. So I'm just going to fix this. I'm going to edit my in-game time, change it to frame 0, which always works, and then you will see the true path 8. Okay. So yeah, did all that. Same. So that failure that I just got now was the same. All of the NPCs moved the same, so there's just no way to prevent that currently. But sometimes, like, these two NPCs won't deviate even though the first two don't, and then you can just back out and walk around the grass. Or you can just, like, add an A press and just hope it works out. A press has changed the RNG. So yeah, no encounter there because this is a good frame. All of these are at least 40 out of 57 to work. I think path 6 is the best one. You can see by looking in the paste bin in the video description success rates for the different path, and then all of the possible failures, like that Weedle, is documented. Yeah, if you want to learn this, like I said, don't bother with it if your time isn't, relatively good competitive on the leaderboard, because there's just so much other stuff that's that you should be practicing that will save more time. But if your PB is like 150, 151, and you want to just keep playing this game, go for a better time. Number one, this is a nice free time save in that it's not like a Mount Moon manipulation where if you mess it up, you lose a ton of time. You either lose no time or you save 4 to 5 seconds. So yeah, I'd recommend learning it for the time save, and also because it'll make you a lot less salty about the RNG in the early game. It's nothing like getting a sub 7 Nidoran split and then getting 3 encounters before this guy. And, even if you get good RNG later, you're in this negative state of mind from having gotten such bad RNG on a run that you hoped would become something. So I think for me, it's really going to help my mentality if I'm able to execute this Manip, just to get rid of those damn encounters and preserve my good runs. So that's it. I may have missed something. You may have some questions based on what's in this video, so feel free to ask those in the comments or contact me directly or on Discord. Note that these specific Manips will probably not last that long, maybe a few months, maybe just a few weeks, depending on how motivated other people are to improve them. But really what you need to practice and learn is the text boxes for the Nidoran catch, because those are small windows. And you have to be holding A or B, which is awkward. In some cases, like if you hold A or B for too long, then you can't buffer the next text box. So once you have that, it's pretty easy to adapt to a change in the movement for the Manip, and none of the movement paths after the Nidoran are even close to being difficult. So yeah, just practice those text boxes and let me know if you have questions. Thanks for watching.